Christine. Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us today, despite some of the technical issues. It wouldn't be a Friday without a few hiccups with it. And, yeah, maybe we're better off on another day when tech isn't such an issue. I think always we seem to have problems on Fridays for some reason. But thank you for joining us, and thank you also to our partner Clear Vision for supporting us to run this event. You can see me on the screen there. I'm Jess. I'm your strategic account leader for Bupa. And really, we're here today to help you learn a little bit more about what GitLab do. And the idea was to demonstrate how we can help you in your digital transformation journey. I think perhaps, as Christine mentioned for today, it might actually be more useful having a bit of a discussion and a conversation around how your digital transformation at Bupa looks today and what those sort of goals are as well for you, so that we can then understand how we can help you moving forwards. So I'm going to give you a brief introduction of GitLab, and then Stefania was going to demo the platform, but yeah, as I say, I think we'll do a bit of a Q&A session and just help you understand a bit more about what we do. So for those who don't already know, GitLab is an open source DevOps platform. And I'll start by saying that one of the main reasons that we're invited to talk to customers is because organizations very similar to yours are looking to drive improvements and efficiencies across their software development lifecycle. And implementing security has become key in this process. As we all know, it's a huge topic these days, which is going to continue to grow in the foreseeable future. So you might have specific goals and KPIs to meet some of your team initiatives, which perhaps you're struggling to achieve. Some of the typical problems that we see might be that you're going through this huge digital transformation, but there's still quite a lot of room for improvement in some of your processes. Maybe you lack visibility across that software development lifecycle, meaning that you struggle to identify gaps and inefficiencies are missed and they're not understood correctly. Another thing is organizations trying to shift security left to detect security problems much earlier and faster in that cycle. Or perhaps you're unable to actually measure and understand developer productivity. So if you can't measure productivity, then how do you know where to make those significant improvements that are going to make an impact to the business? And we also know that silos still persist between development, security, and operations teams. So rather than having a continuous collaborative flow across these teams, this can cause complex challenges and a disrupted workflow, and ultimately it will extend some of those project deadlines. So GitLab is an open source DevOps platform which empowers organizations to maximize their software deployment and drive those business outcomes much faster with complete transparency along the way. And what really makes us unique in this marketplace is that we provide a single application for the entire DevOps lifecycle, so that you can deliver a much more collaborative customer experience. And we actually integrate security as part of our CI/CD solution, so enabling you to shift security left and deal with any problems early on in that development lifecycle, which we know, lots of studies and reports out there, is the cheapest and most efficient time to tackle them. The later that you leave security issues, the more expensive they are, the more time they take to address, and the more disruption they actually cause. So the single DevOps platform approach means you can consolidate your tools, reduce costs, and have a much more secure, efficient process for your whole application lifecycle. In fact, the work that we did with Goldman Sachs meant that they could go from just 2 builds per day to now over 1,000 every day using a much more simplified workflow. So they are now supporting much larger builds than they ever thought possible, which they've been able to do using one centralized instance for all their repositories. And each stage of the entire software delivery process is all in one place. Some other customers of ours globally include Siemens, Fujitsu, Zoopla, Ticketmaster, Suzuki, UBS, Jaguar Land Rover, and the European Space Agency. So hopefully that's piqued your interest a little bit for now. And I think it would be great to, I guess, have a sort of open conversation if we can, and just understand some of those challenges that you think you might be facing at the moment, what initiatives that you have going on. Maybe you recognize some of those challenges that I mentioned, or maybe you feel that you're at a much more mature DevOps and agile state at the moment, and actually just want to look at how you can make it a bit more efficient right across the board. When I've spoken to people previously at Bupa, I know that there's lots of tools in place already to do lots of different functions. And so sometimes I think consolidating those tools has been quite a high topic of interest, just to sort of reduce down some of those costs and help collaboration right across the global organization. So yeah, just interested to hear any sort of questions that you've got. Jeff, I know we were chatting earlier about that. What's your sort of feedback at the moment?
Yeah, so I think I'm much more commercially than technically focused. I think that we, as with many organizations, we're utilizing many tools. You know, we're training people on all those tools, and you know, some people use one tool and other people use other tools, and you just can't collaborate and cooperate together. So I guess that the key thing for me about any tool is how we can advertise that internally to gather momentum. But in order to do that, we really need to know what the key things are that set this apart. If we can understand the key things that set this apart, and we can establish a ground mass of opinion behind something, then it enables us to proceed with traction. Otherwise, it's just, well, why would I want to use that tool? Because I've got mine and it already does the job.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely get that. And I think there's multiple tools out there that do a similar job or try to sort of do a similar job. But as I mentioned earlier, what makes us really unique is having the ability to cover the whole software delivery lifecycle all under one roof, all in one application. And what that means is that you're able to increase your operational efficiencies, so you can work a lot smarter, a lot better right across multiple teams, across multiple countries. We actually use GitLab ourselves, so that we can keep on top of projects and tag people in, make sure that nobody's left out of the loop. And also it means that you've not just got constant chains of emails and you're trying to scroll through and find out what's happening where and when. So I think that's one of the things that enables you to ultimately get a product to market much faster. So a lot of the conversations that I have with customers is about, you know, okay, we've got another tool on the books to use, but how does that actually impact us as a business and impact your end user, your customer? And actually some of the sort of conversations have very much revolved around, well, our competition is able to get this new feature on our mobile app out to our customers really quickly, whereas for us it can take 6 months up to a year to get that new feature out there. So how are you able to drive efficiencies and improvements so that you can deliver your products much faster to market? And I think at the same time, that's all well and good, but if you're not able to handle the security and compliance requirements within Bupa at the same time, there's no point getting products to market faster if you haven't addressed those security and compliance issues, because that's where things can really get delayed and held up. Is you spend all this time and effort and money building a product, and then just before it's launched and it's released, your security team say, oh, hang on, we need to check this out, and that might take weeks, if not months, of going back and forth and reevaluating that new feature or product before it goes to market. So the advantages of having all of that under one roof mean you've got this continual flow rather than it being siloed in these boxes and sort of dropped over the fence to the next team to have to deal with it.
Okay, and so Pauline, just thinking about, you know, how tools like this could help us. I just wonder if there's anything from your more specific technical perspective that we face a challenge with that would just be interested to understand and get some feedback from the guys as to, you know, how their product would aim to sort that and help you.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. I think that there are two things I'm thinking about. First is potentially the integration with other tools, other security tools in the CI/CD pipeline. If you've got any constraints, if there are some tools you cannot operate with at the moment, that's one. I think the other one is that we are not, from what I understand from my position, I'm not directly an operational, so I put a lot of caveat, but from what I understand, we are not fully taking the advantage from the DevOps approach, in the sense that, for instance, we don't have a infrastructure as a code tool yet. So I was wondering if that could be a something that would slow down if we were to go for GitLab, not to be at that maturity level from the DevOps perspective.
Sorry, that's talking, and let me just clear my throat. What I can do, it might be easier, I can talk a little bit about what you've mentioned specifically for security. Let me get myself to the right place. So yes, we integrate with many security tools and many types of security tools, because what we're trying to bring is a unified place. Yes, this one. One place where we can get all of the information, where also teams can collaborate, where you can get developers working with security, and trying to kind of shift as far left as possible. Here I have an example pipeline, and this is using something called Auto DevOps, which is actually a little bit of magic. It's plug and play, and what it means, you just, you enable it, so tick a box, and it creates this pipeline, which is 100% configurable, and it has all of these stages in it. So you can see, for example, build. Even in the build stage, the build is actually figuring out what is being built. So GitLab does a bit of magic there too. And here you can see some examples of the security scanners that we're using. So these examples are the best in breed of the open source scanners. But if you are using commercial security tools, we can also integrate them as well. And some examples of security tools might be, for example, static code analysis. If you're looking at the code, looking at where potential vulnerabilities might be introduced. Also dependencies. So if your developers, I'm not sure what languages, I'm sure there's a bit of everything, but for example, if they're using Java, anything that comes from Maven Central, they're using JavaScript, anything from NPM. So all of the dependencies, I'm not going to say the word log4j too loudly, but that kind of stuff, we can help with that. If you're doing containers, it's also important to scan not only at the app layer, but also look at the base image to see if there are any vulnerabilities there. For compliance, license scanning. So looking at the open source, and you don't accidentally want to introduce a license that will put you in a bad place legally. And also stuff like secret detection. Are you accidentally leaking any secrets or data such as passwords, API keys, etc. So this is an example of what we have. And as I said, the kind of point is to streamline the processes. So you have it all in one place. And also all the results will be in one place as well. And it's also important when we're doing this scanning. So in this pipeline I had a merge request. So this is actually on a feature branch. But actually what we're doing is I'm a developer and I want to do something. So I'm going to create a separate merge request with my feature branch, and then as I commit the code, so as I commit it, we will do all of this scanning before, on this branch, so before it's merged back with production or with master. So what this means is that developers can be very proactive with their security. So they can actually see if they are introducing any vulnerabilities before they've even merged back with production. So instead of having a case where, oh, okay, let's just do pen testing before production. Oh, wait, okay, we're a bit behind schedule. Let's just sign it off and let's do security at some point, well, let's that place where a lot of organizations are, unfortunately. What we're trying to do is shifting it left. So for example, a lot of organizations might do it as part of CI, and this is part of CI, but this is even before we're doing our kind of master build. So it's about that shifting left, which can really help improve operational efficiency and also ultimately deliver better product faster with reduced security and compliance risk. In terms of what this looks like, I can just show you an example vulnerability report. My background, I forgot, I didn't actually do my intro before, but hi, I'm Stefania. I've been working in security for a long time, and I used to be a developer before that as well. And what we have here in the vulnerability report is, so this can be seen, you can see it at a project level. You could see it at a group level. And what I mean by that is I might be a front-end engineer, and maybe I want to look at all the vulnerabilities across my different apps. Or maybe I work in security, and maybe I want to see all of my vulnerabilities across the whole of the estate. And what we can do is we can easily filter. So we can see immediately we've got a bit of a spread. And maybe I just want to prioritize. So this is based on the CVSS score, which is 0 to 10. And best practice, let's focus on the critical and high first. And then once we've dealt with that, we can work on it down. We can also look at different tools. So for example, as I mentioned before, container scanning, dynamic application testing. So part of the great thing about what I showed earlier is if you're building, an app and scanning before it's merged, we can actually see, oh, are we leaking any information in our headers? And other areas such as secret detection, API fuzzing, etc. If I look into this, if I click it correctly, if I look into an example of this, here we can see a vulnerability. And as a reminder, this is all in GitLab. So I have the ability to change code, to look at the security, to do the CI/CD, and then I have some information. It will show me where this vulnerability is. So this is an open source component. It will also show me external links. So actually, if I want to see what's going on, I can go to the National Vulnerability Database or whatever the source may be. And I even get a solution too. And what I have the option is maybe I want to fix this. So I can actually create an issue. I've done one before. So if I click in here, here is an issue that I have as part of my project management, and I've got all this information here, and maybe I want to start, commenting or, collaborating. So I've written yesterday, we need to upgrade this, #Patch Tuesday. And it might be a case of, different team members needing to work here as well. So there's so much I can talk about with security. I just want to give you kind of the top level overview. The other things that kind of are important as well is you can set up approval rules, you can set up policies, you can look, you can configure it in many ways. I've spoken about security. Now I've forgotten the second question, which I believe was to do with infrastructure as code. Also as well, any questions about anything I've covered with the security angle?
Yeah, thank you. That
Carry
was
on,
really,
that'd be
really
great.
good. I just had another quick question for you, and I think, you know, I love GitLab. I've seen the products working in other organizations, and I think it's brilliant because you got your versioning, you know what everything you're doing with your codes, you know, the merging and so on. Probably the only question I'll have is, by having everything in one place, as you say, which makes it a fantastic product, it can make it as well as a single point of failure. So how would you deal with this situation?
So we've got different options. You can do self-managed, or we can host it for you. So if you obviously have self-managed, then you have to do controls around that, around the environment, making sure that it's okay. If we host it for you, we are very, I'm going to say, robust. So we do, because, you know, as you've said, if you are doing everything here, it could be potentially a single point of failure, but we do work with a lot of organizations. So we really do prioritize, you know, making sure that we have, you know, availability, uptime, durability, etc. I might just pass over to my colleague, Simon, who might as well be able to add a little bit more information to this question about single point of failure.
If I could just add to that. Yeah, Simon, go ahead.
Did you want to say something, Abdul?
Yeah, we also we work with GitLab, and we're working on something called GitLab Go. What we also do to, you know, to overcome that issue, we do geo-replication when we do private hosting with GitLab. And that's something that we keep running in parallel. So there's always like a couple of instances always, and there's like 24/7 backups that we work with, especially for industries like Bupa, which have to agree to a lot of compliances. We add that onto there as well. So like Stefania said, right, on-premise and private hosting, that's something that we also do with GitLab Go. And passing over to Simon, I think he'll have a few things to add on to this.
Yeah, thank you both. Abdul's hit the nail on the head. You know, ClearVision also have GitLab Go, which is another hosting option that is available to yourselves. But really, it all comes down to risk appetite. And so, as is the case with most of these things, when you're talking about resiliency, there's levels of resiliency that you can have, and there's sort of a disaster recovery plan that you can put in place for things like self-managed that are normally a price versus resiliency linear line. You know, the more disaster recovery you have, the more expensive it gets in terms of hosting. This isn't a GitLab cost. This is just an infrastructure cost of having resiliency and backups and load balancers and duplicates of everything. If you're talking about SaaS, the great thing about SaaS, so GitLab.com and potentially ClearVision hosting it for you is that it's ever someone else's responsibility to ensure that, and in the case of SaaS, that there's no additional license cost there as well. So you pay exactly the same price for GitLab whether you're buying it on SaaS or self-managed. So yeah. Does that answer your question, Pauline?
Yeah, thank you very much. That was really useful.
No problem.
What I'll do as well, Pauline, I'll put a link in the chat to some of our other customers. You can see we work a lot in the financial sector, who obviously do a lot of rigorous checks to make sure that we've got everything that's needed to make sure that it's a resilient platform, because obviously we can't afford for for anything to happen. So yeah, anybody got any other questions or I guess thoughts on GitLab as a platform and the way that we work?
Dale, conscious that you are new to Bupa, still finding your feet at the minute. You know, I don't know what you've done prior to going to Bupa, or you know, but it would be useful to understand anything that you would see as an issue, and if there's not anything that you would see as an issue or a benefit here, what it would be good to do is to just, so if we're going to get a note out on a video, let's just describe what you guys can do for Bupa, and so we can understand it a little bit, at a very high level. What's the unique value that you guys are going to bring, and then we can help to start some conversations. So I think if we can do, and perhaps as part of that, where you're currently working with the likes of Infosys, Microsoft, Google, Capgemini, all those sorts of people, because we use a lot of those people on a lot of the services, and it would just be good to understand where there are partnership opportunities. So Dale, I don't know if you've got trouble speaking, or you've not really got anything to add, but it'd be great if you could just give 30 seconds.
Yeah, no, of course. I don't really have anything to add, to be honest with you. I'm not in the market for any new software. I'm just going through the procurement stage with Alteryx, just for a specific use case that I've got. I'm not really in the market at all for a new software. It's been pretty nice.
Okay.
So Jeff, just to answer your question, I've got a slide here just to show you some of the partners that we work with, and I'm sure there's lots on there that you recognize. AWS and GCP are very strong partners of ours, along with ClearVision, and I'm sure our paths cross on quite a lot of these examples. In terms of going back to that question, what makes us unique? It's about being able to provide a single application and a single platform for that entire DevOps lifecycle, so that you can deliver a collaborative experience, and introducing a key focus on security throughout that whole process. One of the biggest topics that we're talking about with customers at the moment is security, and shifting security left, so that issues can be dealt with as early as possible in the software development lifecycle, which again we know is the cheapest and most efficient time to actually tackle them. So this is about consolidating your tools, reducing costs, and having a much more secure and efficient process for your whole application lifecycle. Oh, you're on mute, Jeff, sorry.
Sorry, Jeff, I keep muting you because we get quite a feedback from yours. There's a lot of noise feedback.
Right.
Sorry.
So I've unmuted myself. So hopefully you can hear me now. I think there's a lady that Stephen works with called Christina. She's doing some bits and pieces around GCP. Have you met Christina Manalo?
I haven't, no.
Okay, so what I'll do, Jess, is can you just drop me an email straight after? I'll do an introduction to Christina. She's doing some bits and pieces in it which may benefit from some of your knowledge and insights. I'll let her pick up with you. Specifically, it's around some stuff that we want to do with GCP, but you guys can have a conversation on that, and if there's some value for either one or the other of you, great.
Perfect. Yeah, we've got a fantastic partner team as well that I can include in those conversations and just work out what's the best way forward. We've got customers that like to use their GCP credits up before their year end, and it might be that they want to experiment with some new tools and just find the best way of utilizing that spend that they've already committed to. So this could be a great starting point. So thank you. I'll send you an email after the session so that we can follow up.
All right, that's great. Okay, well, thanks for running this through with us today. I think we had it scheduled for for 45 minutes originally.
Well, thanks so much for joining. It was great to meet you, and thanks for pinging the others to get them to come along as well. Always tricky on a Friday, so I appreciate that, and I'm glad it was useful. Pauline, if you've got any other questions, I'll drop you my email address as well, so that you can get in touch. And yeah, feel free to set up a separate session if you want to go through anything in more detail.
Thanks, Jess. Appreciate that.